And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Walsh coming at you for the RBLR Sports Podcast here on New Year's Day. We are talking about the Rowdies. As you can see, because it is New Year's Day, we are not wearing our usual gear. Carlos has actually just come off of the construction site, and I am wearing my usual Wine Mom shirt. For anyone who is on the YouTube or links, you can see my beautiful Wine Mom shirt. I have several of those, and this is my green one, most festive for this time of year. Carlos, how was the site today?
Well, what does the shirt say? Can you read it out first?
I drink wine responsibly. Oh, you can't see the bottom. I don't spill any.
I don't spill. Wow. James, that's some of your best work. I appreciate that. I can always appreciate a good Facebook mom, wine, t-shirt, Facebook post, the whole 9 yard. I appreciate that. I wasn't on a construction site. I don't know why this is in my room. We had a bunch of folks over for our New Year's little party that we always do with my family, a bunch of family friends last night. I had a good time. And this was in the room where I usually record the podcast when I'm down in Tampa. So it's on my head now. Spent the day in Tarpon Springs today, James. Lovely day. Very sunny. Nice cool breeze. Had some Greek food. And it's been a good afternoon. It's a great start to my 2025. There hasn't been a lot in the way of Rowdies news other than the schedule that came out maybe a week and a half ago now. Which we haven't gotten a chance to talk about yet. Super excited to go through that in just a little bit. Spoiler alert. But plenty of great stuff to talk about there. Jager Cup news, James. That's kind of coming to fruition in a way that I think I didn't think would happen so quickly in one off season. But obviously, it's been something that's been in the works for a while. Excited to talk about that with you in just a minute. But 2025, James, it's here. January 1st, Wednesday night, 6:30 p.m. Ohio State is blowing out Oregon. If you care about college football, it's a kind of a crazy result right now before halftime. And I'm curious what everybody's got to think. Everybody's got to say about the schedule as we look ahead to this year now. Anybody listening live, always feel free to give us your comments, your thoughts on things as we start to discuss them later on in the pod. But James, how's your 2025 going in the 6 hours? No, not 6 hours. Geez, I'm a little tired. 18 and a half hours in which it's been 2025. How's it going?
It's been really good, actually. I have hung out with the friends that I was with last night, then my family, and then actually an old friend from high school, the only person that I really kept in touch with at all from high school. So it's been pretty good in all arenas, I would say. But just as you mentioned earlier, Carlos, there is a little bit of Rowdies news. There's not a ton, but we do have a schedule to go over. And then there's actually some stuff from around the league, around the soccer world, you could say, that are tangentially related to the Rowdies, but enough that they are creating buzz online. We need to comment on those. Every so often, there is a show that we get to that is specifically related to stuff that is kind of taking off online. Carlos, I think that you waded into a controversy once, maybe one related to Barnsley fans, a couple of other instances where things online had to be subjects for the podcast. So one of those tonight will come up, and we'll get through all of that in good order. But let's get into the show here. First, of course, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube or any major podcast platform. Please follow RBLR Sports on all the social medias, whichever one you use. It's almost certainly true that we are there. And if we're not, I'd be pretty surprised. Either way, let's get into the schedule. I will not read the whole thing. There are plenty of links online. So if you do want to look at the whole schedule, please do that. But we'll go over a couple of quick highlights here. For starters, Saturday, March 8th, that is the first game of the season for the Rowdies, and it is actually an away game at Las Vegas Lights. A couple years ago, the Rowdies had their last game of the season in Las Vegas, and I went out with a couple of other Rowdies fans, not together, but we all met up for the game, and it was a really good time. So I don't know if anybody is planning on that one. I would recommend that. It's actually a pretty good trip. Las Vegas is fun on its own, but they play in a stadium that's not on the strip. You actually get to see what Las Vegas is a little bit like for people who live there, let's say. It was a nice little treat in that sense. So I would recommend that one for anybody who would like to go. The first 4 games of the season all appear to be away, starting with that Saturday, March 8th. Then there's Saturday, March 15th, Saturday, March 22nd, Saturday, April 5th. And then the next one, Saturday, April 12th, is our first home game. That is against Loudoun United. I don't know, Carlos, if this is down to possibly damage at Al Lang Stadium, that they're giving us an extra window. We didn't get any specific information on that. That's just speculation. But I do think that the first 4 games being away is a little interesting. And finally, we'll have, I guess we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 5 league games and a Jägermeister Cup game all in a row at home. It's a weird looking schedule if you look at it.
James, yeah, the schedule is really weird. You kicked off. I think the opponents are less important, and we'll get back to some highlights here in a minute. The more important takeaways are how insanely stupid like the breakdown of home and away games is spaced out here.
Yeah.
Like you said,
it's very heavy in one and then the other, and then it takes a big long, I guess this makes sense, but it does take a big long break for us through the middle of summer.
Yeah, so it's fascinating. And there's always been something that's kind of, been relevant to the Rowdies because of the St. Pete Grand Prix, right? That happens right around season opening time. Usually prevents us from having our first game of the season at home. I can't really remember the last time our opening. I think actually I say that, but I think this season might have had a home game to open the year.
I think it was.
Yeah, but it's pretty rare. And if it's not, like, it's happened maybe a couple times, including this year. But it's always in the discussion that's like, okay, well, it makes sense that I don't really know what date the Grand Prix is this year. I don't really keep up with racing too much, but I always know it's kind of in the mix, and we always end up maybe getting a game delayed. It's always in the discussion. This 4 weeks in a row to start away is difficult, as is, right? You're going all the way out to Las Vegas and then flying to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Then you come back down to the southeast to go to Miami, and then away to the obviously really good Charleston squad to end that home stretch, or that away stretch, sorry. Then, like you said, you have these 6 games at home against a mixed bag of opponents, including a Louisville game in there and a Jägermeister game. We'll talk about the Jägermeister Cup a bit more in just a little bit, because I think it's fascinating, and I really like this edition, by the way. Somewhat of a normal next couple of months. You go away to Lexington. That'll be fun. New opponent, right?
Yep.
Home to Tormenta, Jägermeister game. Away, home, away, home. And then, James, you get to this July period that you mentioned, right? Includes 2 Jägermeister games. One, a really fun away road trip to FC Naples to start the month of July on July 4th.
And that's on July 4th.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's I guess that's like, I feel like that's a little bit of a statement of intent, at least for FC Naples, that they are like, this is going to be a local event. Come out. That seems cool.
Yeah, I'd be kind of taking a stab in the dark as to like how FC Naples' attendance is going to look like in this first year. I have no clue. I'm not quite familiar with like Naples soccer community, and if it's an area that could draw, 2,000 to 3,000 people regularly. But like you said, a 4th of July game, it'll be fun. I'm sure it's always going to be a local event, right? It'll be a great road trip, and if you're in the area, you should absolutely try to make your way down there. It would be a fantastic time, I'm sure.
Big time.
A great road trip. And again, I want to talk more about the Jägermeister Cup in just a little bit, but that starts a stretch of 6 away games in a row. Absurd. It's absurd. You have 1 weekday game in there. So for the most part, it's spread out 6 to 7 days, right? Because you have the Friday game at Naples and Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. So you don't touch Out Lang for the entirety of July. for a home game, which is kind of absurd. And that kind of happened this year too, James. You might remember that this season we only had one home game in July. Super weird, kind of uncommon. We usually have it's more evenly spread out.
Right.
This is the most insane structure that I've seen play out for us. It's not really happened to this level of extreme level. I don't know. I'm a little tired, James. Maybe a little. I had a little bit to drink yesterday. Let's put it that way. I'm a little tired.
You wouldn't be the only one.
Look, all I'm trying to say is that this is weird, and I don't know what the deal is. I'm sure that the stadium damage probably played a role in having those away games to start the year like that. I don't know why that means that so many home games come in a row, which means obviously you have to have like a block of away games to balance it out. The rest of the schedule is kind of normal. Once you get into August, fun game at home against Phoenix Rising, always, to kind of have another home game after all of July and early August away from home. You go away to Detroit, home to Pittsburgh, another great one, followed by home to Sacramento, another highlight on the season schedule off the bat. In September, mixed bag of games here, home to Colorado Springs, away Birmingham, home North Carolina, away Loudoun. Please don't get swept by Loudoun this year. That's what I'm asking for.
Good Lord.
A delayed Christmas gift that I'm asking for from the Rowdies. And then a normal kind of schedule breakdown to close out the year. Home, Monterey Bay, away Rhode Island, home against Hartford and Detroit, respectively. So went through a lot of the games here just by name, but I'm the biggest takeaway, the reason why I did that is just so we can kind of get a feel for, like, kind of talk out loud, talk through the distribution of home games and away games. It's psychotic. It's going to be really challenging, I'm sure, from like an operational standpoint, right? I mean, you're going all the way out to Las Vegas. You fly all the way back to Tampa and then go back to Tulsa. I'm not sure. I don't really know how that works, if that would be like efficient, if that would be worth it, if it would be worth going straight to Tulsa from Las Vegas. I really don't know, but it just seems like there's going to be a lot of cross-country travel, especially once you get to that July period, right? When there's 6 away games in a row. I mean, that fatigue is going to kick in. So
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Like we naturally struggle away, right? I mean, it's just kind of how it goes. But I think the mettle of this team will be tested very, very quickly off the bat, right? 4 away games in a row, 2 of them really far out west, right? One of them really far out west, one of them out west, right? Then you go down to Miami, you have to win that one. And then you go up to Charleston. Tough game. So I think this is really early on. We don't know what the team looks like yet, obviously. But I think that's going to be really tough. And then I'm an optimistic person. You know that, James. I'm generally kind of the predicting the win on this duo we have here. But man, like, I would be very surprised if we have a really positive opening 4 weeks. Like, you need some time to gel together as a team. And for that to happen while you're bouncing around so much, it's going to be really tough. So we're going to have to see how quickly these guys gel together. This offseason is going to be really important because you don't want to get off to a really slow start either.
No.
Don't dig yourself into the hole too early. I mean, even though we're going to have a lot of home games to balance it out, you don't want to dig yourself into that hole early. We know that's a problem. We know how difficult it can be to catch up to a Charleston or to a Louisville later on. So these are going to be really, really important opening games away. We're going to see what can happen, but I think there's just inevitably going to be a really disappointing loss or really disappointing draw somewhere in there that we just won't be expecting on paper. But if you look at the fact that it's so many away games and these guys need to gel together as a team while they're bouncing out, it's going to be really tough. So that's my biggest takeaway from that, James. I know I've been rambling for a minute about the distribution of these home games and away games, but I truly think that's going to be a really, really, really big factor. We're going to see it play out, especially through the first 2/3 of this season. We're going to see how much of an effect it takes, because that's how the first 2/3 of the season is broken down. It's a chunk of away games, big chunk of home games, big chunk of away games, and then a regular part to regular, schedule to close of the year. So really, really weird. I'm fascinated to see how we navigate this, because there's not really a lot of teams that I think that I've seen are dealing with the same kind of distribution. I would assume it has to do something with, Al Lang Stadium, maybe taking some repairs right now. But it's fascinating. It really, really is fascinating. James, do you have anything? Did I ramble on enough about these home game, away game distributions? Because I would like to talk about some of these like games. So there's a couple really fun ones coming up. But
yeah,
I think it's worth like just kind of getting some focus on this now, because I know people talked a little bit about it on Facebook, especially. There's some conversation about that. But I think this is going to be a big, big factor this year, truly.
Yeah, when I saw it the first time, we weren't recording, so I didn't have a place to come out and say that I find this to be super weird. But yeah, looking at it again for tonight's recording, it is obviously very weird. I don't know that I've ever seen 5 away league games in a row, and again, that includes another one for the Jägermeister Cup, so that's actually 6 home games, or excuse me, that I meant home games. Yeah, 5 home games in a row for the league, and then 1 in the Jägermeister Cup. So I don't know that I've ever seen that. And then through all of July through August 9th, it'll be 6 away games. 2 of those are Jägermeister Cup, so they'll be close. Just like you said, Carlos, it is that one versus Naples that starts this. That's just crazy. I think that even the 3 home games that we have in a row on August 30th, September 6th, and September 13th, that is that's usually uncommon. How frequently do you see even 3 home games in a row? So I definitely, just like you said, this presents immediate problems in terms of like running a soccer team as a coach, getting everybody set up to handle the wear and tear of travel, getting everybody set, because that also impacts your schedule for training each week. I think that it's going to be we're gonna just like you said too, we're gonna have some results that absolutely throw everybody for a loop. Like, how the hell did we lose to this team? That will happen. So yeah. I just hope it's not, I don't know, I hope it's not Miami or something. I'm looking at those away games there, but it's gonna be very interesting to see how all of that plays out. I am looking forward to certain things, and then I'm extremely hesitant about that. I can't imagine that the league wasn't coordinating some of this with the team for certain reasons. I could assume that the team did not want to play many home games during July. That I can understand, but no home games in July. That's weird. Saturday and May are all home games. So it has thrown me for a loop immediately.
Yeah, super, super, super weird. You make a really good point, actually. I didn't really think about how we have maybe one time every season where we're like, wow, 3 home games in a row. That's kind of weird. Like, that means we're not going to see the team for a while. And then we see them play in like 3 or 4 weeks in Al Lang Stadium, right? This schedule, you look at it, and there's just you have 6 home games in a row. That's double that, like, really rare. Wow, you just mentioned 3 home games in a row. That's crazy as is. 6, I don't know. I'm still kind of in shock. Like, the more I look at it, the more insane it seems to me. But I think we really could talk about how strange this is forever. By the way, not fun fact. I guess it's a fun fact about me. I love this like retro aesthetic that we've kept going with for next year. I'm looking at the graphic that you pinned, James, in our docs, and this is a graphic you'll see online and on Twitter during the schedule drop, with the OG Rowdy Ralph, right?
Yeah,
and still a kick in the grass 2025. I love that. I love that they brought the original author too. The artist to draw that up. I think it's really cool. Okay, more importantly, James, more importantly than the distribution of games, we always have, our Louisvilles that we have to play. Always exciting games, or Charlestons. What are some exciting ones here that just stick out to you off the get-go? I know we talked about the Jägermeister Cup. We can start talking about that too, because I'm really, really excited about that. It's weird in a way. It's like kind of like bringing me down looking at how blocky the schedule is. But let's talk about something exciting here that you look at and makes you say, wow, this is something I'm going to put in my calendar and be excited for in 2025.
Yeah, there are a bunch of those that stick out immediately. So the first thing is our first Jägermeister Cup game is a home game. If anybody is unaware of exactly how the Jägermeister Cup works, it is going to be a competition between the USL Championship and USL League One teams. I was honestly hoping that in the future we might see even USL League Two. I don't know how that would actually work because it's not a full year season.
Yeah.
Luckily, the Jägermeister Cup might not. It runs from April for us all the way through. When is the last one? The last one is in July. So that's actually relatively close to the USL League Two season, and it would depend on when the Jägermeister Cup final is as to whether or not the USL League Two could ever participate. But it would be extremely difficult. I know for certain it would be extremely difficult for that to work out. So we're certainly not getting it this year. But our first Jägermeister Cup match is going to be Saturday, April 12th. And because it is expanded to the USL Championship and it's not just USL League One, they have made it regional. Good news for AV Alta down in USL League One, who finally have somebody closer than Spokane to play. But for us, that means that we are going to be in a group, and that group consists of Miami FC, us, South Georgia Tormenta FC. That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
We are also in a group with FC Naples, of course, and then Charleston Battery. That is really, really neat that we are going to have all of these little teams that we've never played before. I don't know if we've played South Georgia Tormenta. I feel like we might. I feel like I'm forgetting an Open Cup game, possibly.
Just
But
preseason.
otherwise, well, yes, preseason.
Yeah,
but I mean,
just
in a
preseason.
competitive environment, I don't know if we've ever played them before.
No,
So,
we haven't.
yeah,
No.
so that's cool. That's very cool for the fans. And then, of course, this is FC Naples' first season ever. So we have never played them in any capacity before. We'll probably get a preseason game against them just because of the proximity, but I'm looking forward to that one. So, yes, let me get back to those games that stand out that I took a good little ramble for. Saturday, April 26th, Jägermeister Cup game versus Miami FC. Definitely hope that there is a lot of Jägermeister paraphernalia involved, possibly even some liquid paraphernalia. That one would be good.
Yeah.
The next one that stands out to me is actually, it's not like one of the coolest ones, but Saturday, May 17th versus Rhode Island. I think that's going to be interesting because Rhode Island just proved how good they can be by making it to the USL Championship final in their inaugural season. So that stands out for me. The next one is the next weekend, Saturday, May 24th at Lexington. I have family up around there. So that one stands out for me personally, probably not for everybody. That one stands out for me personally because they are in a new stadium and I would sincerely like to get up there sometime. Maybe we'll do that for that weekend. We'll have to see how the schedule works out, of course, but that would be kind of cool. And then what was the next one I was going to say? Yes. Friday, July 4th, Jägermeister Cup game at FC Naples. Anyone listening to this who lives in and around the Tampa Bay area generally, put that on your calendar now. I'm saying Rowdies fans, the Ralph's Mob group, the Skyway Casuals group, everybody should be trying to make that a big deal. Everyone should be trying to get to that. If we can, we should make this a rival team and we should show FC Naples fans what it's like to be a USL team, what it means to have some real fans because they are brand new. They don't have any fans yet because they can't go to games. We will see how it goes when the games actually start. But for the time being, we should get this going, get a little bit more of a rivalry and get everybody invested in that one. Friday, July 4th. Mark it on your calendars already. And then, the last one that I wanted to mention would be that Saturday, September 6th versus Sacramento. That's actually, I should say Saturday, September 6th versus Sacramento. And then next weekend, Saturday, September 13th versus Colorado Springs. Obviously, reigning champions. So those are two big tests. They're both at home in a row. Those are the ones that stand out to me immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. You highlighted a lot of the ones I definitely would have mentioned as well. I think having to play away to Charleston twice, I think, is tough.
It's
With the Jägermeister Cup away game as well, right? July 26th. We played on April 5th as well for the league away to Charleston. Tough. To mention the Jägermeister Cup a little bit more, you were asking when the final is. The final is on October 11th, 2025. So this tournament's actually going to run pretty deep into the season. October 11th is, roughly the end of the regular season, right before playoffs, usually. So it'll be interesting. I'm really, really excited. The group is pretty fun. We're not playing Greenville, despite them being in the group, right? No.
I don't see Greenville on here now.
Yeah. It'll be fascinating. It's an interesting group. The teams we are playing, right, with Naples and South Georgia Tormenta FC, right? Like those are just fun teams to play against because we've never played against them competitively. In fact, one team doesn't really exist yet, or does not exist yet, right? That's a team that still has to put together a roster, see the new stadium in action, test out all the work out all the kinks of a new game day experience in Naples, Florida, right? I think that's really cool. I think it's really fun that we get to kind of be a part of that first season, right, on 4th of July. So that is off the bat probably one of the more exciting games for me. Presumably we should go in there and establish ourselves as the better team, was the USL Championship team, but I won't get ahead of myself. Maybe this FC Naples squad is just a generational team that we'll never see again. So you never know, but like you said, it should be one that we should kind of all be making an effort to get down to if we're in the, if we're in Florida at all. If you're just in the state of Florida as a Rowdies fan, this should be one you try to get to. It's not a long drive, right? Going down to Naples is 2 hours, or no. Naples, it's a little more than 2 hours. You're going down to Naples, not bad. You can take over a good chunk of what will be a pretty small stadium, right? It'd be a good look for us. It'd be a good look for Naples too, right? Getting a good, exciting crowd, helping to build that over there. And who knows? Maybe we hate them for some reason, and that's a thing going forward. But never know. But yeah, James, I'm honestly, I know it's kind of weird to say that an away game to a third division team is one of the ones I'm more excited about, but it really is. It's kind of up there. You have all these typical games, right, against your Louisvilles on April 19th, which I'm obviously excited for because it's a home game against one of the teams that we've historically had a great run against, great back and forth with them, followed up by a Miami game for the Jägermeister Cup, which will be the opening Jägermeister Cup game. Like you said, I hope we pump 8 goals into them and start off that tournament well.
Let's do it.
That Charleston Battery game at home is going to be very important to get a win out of because I don't know how well we're going to do in 2 away games to Charleston, right? Including one of them being an Open Cup game. So get some momentum against a big team there. I hate playing Charleston. So annoying. We played Louisville earlier in the year this year than we have in the past couple seasons, which is pretty nice. Get that away game to Louisville out of the way early on June 7th. Other than that, though, big games to look forward to. Like you said, I'm going to point to the exact same you said to close out your highlights in Sacramento and Colorado Springs. Really, really good teams, really good, fun teams from out west that we don't get to see out here in Alang too often. So it's good to have them over here. Shout out Aiden Rocha, Juan Tejada, right? I think he's still on the Colorado Springs Switchbacks. I don't think I've seen any news about him departing.
No. He's scoring a final. They should keep you.
Yeah. So assuming that doesn't change between now and then, which it very much could, or early on in the offseason, maybe we see a Juan Tejada return to Alang Stadium, which I think, well, no, I mean, he was on Indy and played against the Rowdies. I'm not sure if he got minutes, but a rare Juan Tejada sighting in Alang Stadium, not for the Rowdies. It'd be great to see him again. James, fun schedule, all things considered. It is very, very weird, and I'm not gonna discount that. It's strange, but it shouldn't take away from how exciting the rest of the schedule is. Plenty of good games, regular games in there as well against Birmingham's and and Indy 11s and whatnot that are always decent games. But I'm really excited about the Jägermeister Cup. I think this will be a fascinating addition to the normal regular season games.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a great test run for kind of like what we're kind of capable of in U.S. soccer as a whole of doing, right? It's kind of like in season, cup that's typical in other parts of the world. I know in your neck of the woods, James, in Scotland, I know there's a cup that is exclusively like the lower, like second division and below. Just kind of gives me that vibes.
Yeah.
It's like an open cup, but like throwing out MLS, which I can get behind. So yeah, especially not knowing what the Open Cup is going to look like next year. It's so uncertain, which is really unfortunate. I'm glad that the USL is kind of capitalizing on that and making a little bit of excitement out of that. It should be fun. It should be fun time. I'm curious to see what the attendances are like. I think it's really cool that they're not just throwing them in on Wednesdays. Like they're prioritizing this as like real stuff, you know?
Yeah.
The challenge in the past has been, right, we'll play like the Villages, which is kind of fun, but it's on a Wednesday and no one's really going to want to go to traverse the traffic all the way to St. Pete, right, to watch the Rowdies versus the Villages. But if it's a Saturday, May 31st, Jägermeister Cup, like you're going to get a pretty normal crowd, like would be your regular season crowd, right? It's not going to be affected by the fact that you're playing a lower division team, is my guess. That's my guess. We'll see, but I really don't think it'd be the case that Rowdies fans are at home saying, oh, Tormenta FC, I'm not going.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, like maybe that's the case on a weekday. On a Saturday against Tormenta, like that'll be fun. You know what I'm saying? It'll be fun. It's cool that they're putting these games on the weekends, prioritizing them as a real, cup, trying to get this like off the ground, get the excitement going. Broadly speaking, there's only one weekday home game, which is pretty nice. It's kind of fun. I enjoy a random weekday home game. Like after, a school, when I was in high school, I'd hop over and come get changed and go to the stadium, or after work, after I graduate, like whatever. But it's annoying to get to. I mean, the weekend games are easier. So the only weekday game is that Wednesday, June 25th against Indy 11. We only had one weekday game this past season as well against Detroit over the summer on a Wednesday. So keeping up that schedule, we've been very fortunate on that end. I think that's kind of a push the USL has been trying to make in general to keep fans in the seats on the weekends. But one more comment on the Jägermeister Cup, just to finalize what I was saying. I just think it's really, really fun that all these games are, with the exception of the game on the 4th of July, but it's the 4th of July. It's on Friday. The rest of the Jägermeister Cup games are on Saturdays, and that's really, really cool, right? The Open Cup games have always been on the weekdays, but I think that's the advantage you have of the cup being, run by the USL, right? The USL can kind of do whatever it wants with it because it's the USL Cup. So that's a really, really great position to be in for this. I think it'll get off the ground really well. It's hard. I mean, it seems to get enough momentum, as much momentum as it could, as just a USL League One tournament. Adding in all the USL Championship teams, it'll be a good time. It'll be a good time. I'm fascinated to see what Lexington SC can do, James. Truly, I really am. And you said you have family out there. This is a team that is kind of an enigma to me. I don't know like what the culture is out there. Doesn't seem, and I'm sorry if there's any like diehard Lexington SC fans listening to me right now. It doesn't seem to be a particularly like thriving soccer culture over there, like in general. And
not yet, it doesn't. Yeah.
And frankly, this again, I'm not trying to like trash on them. I'm really not. Like, I don't know what the potential is over there, or if there is any, for like a thriving soccer culture. So they have a new stadium. It's going to be exciting. It's an away game for us, right? As they join the USL Championship, maybe that generates more excitement. I know they weren't particularly high up in the attendance numbers in League One, so
or the rankings,
So ProRel, whatever. Yeah. So I'm fascinated to see less so about what they can do on the field and more so what they can do off the field. If joining the USL Championship, building this new stadium, if that all kind of helps generate the excitement they need to maybe get that soccer culture they deserve. we'll see. I'm really, really fascinated by Lexington. So, a random thought to close out there. Lexington SC, an enigma to me. Fascinating to see what they can do. Maybe a fun away game to get to too. It's a cool college town, right?
I believe, yeah. Which one is there? Is that
isn't that you, Kentucky?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Because the other big one obviously is Louisville, and that's not going to be in Lexington, is it? I worked through that in my head. We got there. We got
there. Yeah. Okay. So that's my long-winded way of saying the schedule's weird, but it's fun. It has its quirks, and they're significant quirks. But it's gonna be a fun schedule. There's plenty of fun games. Get really excited about the Jägermeister Cup. Like I don't think it's gonna be one of those situations where it's one of these like random tournaments that kind of just exist and nobody really gives a crap about them, right? This is pretty legit. Weekend games, all the teams, an extra tournament, an extra opportunity for silverware. It'll be exciting. And I'm hoping we can be the first team in the USL Championship history to do the double.
That would be cool. That would be pretty cool. One last thing that I'll say related to the schedule, just if you can, in any way possible, whether that's buying tickets or posting about it or telling Don Garber that he's a piece of, you know what, make sure that you support the Open Cup as well. The Open Cup deserves your support. It is literally the oldest soccer institution in this country, and destroying it would be a ridiculous thing to do for, especially considering MLS is a league that's trying to build up its own history and talks about and makes retro jerseys for teams that are 5 years old. Just support the Open Cup while you're
Inter Miami had a retro jersey this season, and it wasn't. I'm going to start waffling about that. If you're going to shut me up, James.
Well, yeah, if you can, when we have the Open Cup schedule come out, make sure you do whatever you can. Mostly that is buying tickets and going to games, but try to do whatever you can to support the Open Cup as well. All right. With that out of the way, just want to say liking and subscribing is free, but if you think you might need some new threads coming up this new year, because it's 2025, you can support our podcast a little bit more by heading over to shop.rblrsports.com and checking out all the designs we've got going on there. There will be a link in the description, and you can use the promo code COYR for 10% off of your order. Please do check it out. We are getting new stuff up there for the Sun as well as the Rowdies. So there's definitely some cool stuff, and I think that you will like it if you search it. Carlos, there are 3 big talking points to get to. I don't know if we want to do these. I guess the order that is listed is probably the best order because the first one is the biggest one for us. Neil Collins has left Wraith Rovers in Scotland, and he has come back to the USL Championship to join Sacramento Republic. We just talked about when we're going to see Sacramento Republic in, I think it was September. So this is the big thing that has taken over Rowdy's discourse online. We obviously needed to talk about it. Immediate thoughts.
September 6th will be fun. There'll be a good game to go to. We already did like our thank you for Neil Collins, on his last game. So we don't need to do like the whole thanks thing again. Like I appreciate him. I love Neil Collins to death. Don't take this as me like discounting everything he did here. But obviously I hope we win by like 8 goals because it's Sacramento. What the hell? Like it's such a roller coaster of events with Neil Collins' managerial career.
Yeah.
I still love Neil Collins. I still think he's one of my favorite managers in the rather short modern Rowdies era, right? Incredible story of how he took over the team and everything, and kind of turned the team around in a season. But what a roller coaster of a managerial career so far, right? It goes to Barnsley, has this opportunity. Barnsley sacks him incredibly unfairly, and I still am pissed off at them for that because I think it led to this chain reaction of events that led him eventually to Sacramento. If in a perfect world, if you can see into the future and you see he could see what could happen, what would have happened if he went to Barnsley, what was going to happen if he went to Barnsley and get sacked less than a year later for decent results, in my opinion. I'm sure he would have stuck around in Tampa Bay. Like he loved Tampa Bay, he loved the Rowdies, but he wanted to, go off and try and make a name for himself in Europe, do something bigger, right? which is totally understandable and respectable, right? But when it doesn't work out that quickly in a club like Barnsley in League One in England, right? I would imagine, and it seems to be the case, that it's really hard to bounce back and get a job that's kind of on par, right?
Yeah,
Lateral.
right.
You're probably gonna have to make a move down, which took him to Wraith Rovers, right? In 2024, last year, right? In the Scottish Championship, right, James? Yeah, Scottish Championship.
Where they are currently mid-table.
Right. Jordan Doherty went over there to play under Neil Collins, right?
He's got to be feeling something right now. God.
Whatever. So he went to Wraith Rovers officially on September 3rd. What? Less than 3 months later, after coaching like a single-digit amount of games, right? He didn't make it to 10 games. I really don't know how many games it was, but it was not a lot of games at all. December 21st, the news comes out that Sacramento activated the compensation clause in Neil's contract to exercise the option to bring him over to Sacramento. A lot of takeaways from that for me. The first being, how much, like, is there just no money in the Scottish Championship? That's Sacramento Republic of the American Second Division. And again, I'm not discounting the USL Championship, but we can just do that. Yeah.
It's if you just for a slight tangent from Rowdies and USL here to get onto the Scottish side of things. Celtic obviously have the most money in Scotland. Rangers have there's a little gulf between them. Then there's Rangers. Then there's a huge gulf. Then there's a couple of clubs in the top division, and then you start getting into incredibly low amounts of money. And yes, the ownership groups for Sacramento, for Louisville City, for Tampa Bay, probably Phoenix as well, a couple of others are definitely bigger fish than anybody in the Scottish Championship, and probably one or two teams in the Scottish Premiership, if not more.
Yeah. So, yeah, money-wise, apparently USL teams can just do that. It seems like it's a splash of the offseason, maybe on both the player and the coach side, certainly on the managerial side. There's not going to be a managerial move in the USL as big as this offseason. I'm very confident in saying that on January 1st, 2025. Still plenty of offseason left. And I'm almost very confident in saying that it's going to be the biggest move, managerial or player, of the offseason. Yeah, I mean, it seems very rare that a situation like this happens where a USL team goes to Europe to bring back a former USL manager who is doing his job in Wraith Rovers, right? By the Wraith Rovers press release, it seemed that they wanted him to stick around, obviously, and they, were trying to convince him to stick around Wraith. Whatever. It's a long-winded way of me saying I'm very confused. I guess he's making more money in Sacramento than in Wraith Rovers. But I don't really know. It kind of makes the whole leaving the Rowdies to Europe seem pointless, And it's not like you can predict how the future is going to go. And there's always that risk that it's not going to go as well as you hope. And,
right.
Yeah, it's not a perfect climb, right? Up from the Rowdies to Barnsley to, a championship level team in England to the Premier League, right? It's not really how it goes. It seems pretty rare that would be the case. But it still kind of sucks because it's okay, we had to do all this turmoil and switch up and then, potentially cost a championship season when Neil Collins leaves halfway through the year, right?
Yeah, that was I think that was one of the biggest parts of it for me.
Yeah. And then, okay, Neil Collins, best of luck. You're one of my favorite coaches. I know you're going to do well. Think he was done really dirty in Barnsley, right? And then ends up back in the USL, a year and a half, less than 2 years later, really. 2-ish years later, almost 2 years later. So that sucks because it feels like the whole thing was pointless. I really still want him to do well, but now he's in the USL, and now it's kind of like, okay, well now it just kind of was for nothing, you know. So that's unfortunate. It really is. What else was I gonna say? If he's still a young manager, right? If the goal is to like make being a manager like this long-term career, I don't know if like coming back to the USL and being Sacramento is going to help him do that. Like it feels like being in a place like Scotland is still kind of better for him to maybe make a bigger move in the near future. I really don't know. I'm kind of just speculating. I don't know what the trajectory is, after going to the USL to England to Scottish second division and then back to USL. I don't know what the trajectory is from there. I really don't. Maybe you have your opinions on this too, James, but I'm pretty confused. And yeah, I don't know. It kind of sucks. That's all I really have to say. It sucks because we really don't know what the thought process is, right? There's probably so many other factors going into it. Money probably goes into it too. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the fact that, he left the Rowdies because of wanting to take the next step in his career. And then a year and a half, year and 3/4, almost 2 years later, he comes back into the USL because that's just where the coaching career took him. So, yeah, it just feels like we were kind of done dirty by a season of, kind of losing. We lost out on a season, right? When we lose a manager like that. And then we're making that transition period with Robbie Nielsen, who I think is a fantastic coach. And I'm really excited to see what Nielsen's squad can put together next season. But it just feels like an unnecessary turmoil for us now, but that's me being selfish. It is what it is now. And I'm really excited for the Robbie Nielsen versus Neil Collins managerial matchup in September. I think it'll be a really fun game, like it always is against Sacramento. Sacramento is clearly not messing around by making the splash. They want to go out and get a successful guy. It's fascinating, but very, very confusing.
Yeah, I did a couple of different shows about this already. By that I mean the Sacramento podcast among them. So there were a couple of different places where I could get my thoughts out about this, and I definitely it's like whiplash. It's whiplash on this one, and I also don't like it. It's negative whiplash. So yeah, it was weird to see, and just. I want to reiterate that what you have already said, where we wish Neil Collins all the best naturally, except of course when we play them. I do not wish him the best in those games specifically. I hope that his team loses. And Carlos's score prediction of 8-0. Let's see that. I want it to happen. Yeah. But other than that, I do think that the whole big deal, and this ultimately comes back to the Barnsley ownership team and how fickle they are with the money that they have. They think that they're able to win promotion into the English second division instead of the English third division. So it's very frustrating that this is how that went, and ultimately they seemingly fell apart after that. Barnsley, by the way, are 6th in the third division in England, so they're within playoff positions, but they are not within an automatic promotion position. Either way, not the biggest fan of all of this, and I am looking forward to seeing Neil Collins again. I will do everything in my power to get to that game. I obviously get to most of the games for the Rowdies, but yeah, that one is going to be another one that we circle on our calendar for specifically this reason. So very weird stuff, and I'm definitely not too pleased with it.
Yeah, it stinks. It stinks. Yeah. It stinks. There's really no other way to put it. It's very weird. I'm very confused. Yeah, it's not like it's not, and it's strange, right? Because it's not like Collins like it's not like he lied to the fan base.
No,
right?
Exactly.
It's not like he was like, oh, I want to go to Europe and take the next step in my career, but secretly I'm plotting on coming back to Sacramento. Right? It wasn't ever the agenda, right? it would be an insane thing to plan out, right? So it's not like even like we can say it's his, it's Neil Collins, right? And like, he like hates the Rowdies or something. Like I think that's what makes it all the more confusing, and that's why I hate Barnsley all the more right now.
Yep.
For being an absolute terrible place to try and launch your managerial career. Unfortunate. Yeah, Yurka makes a good point that, like, MLS could be a viable endgame for Neil Collins as well. Certainly more likely, I think, than going back to Europe. But yeah, Neil Collins is a fantastic coach. It's kind of weird because it's the success he would need to get hired by an MLS squad would imply that like he does really well and beats the Rowdies in the final or something, right? Sacramento. I hope he does well enough to move up to a higher level and get out of the USL.
Let's say he moves over to Liga MX.
That would be something. You can even Scottish manager Neil Collins leading like Tijuana. That'd be awesome.
Lots of sunburns.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I would love to see. I'd pay to see that locker room. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
How would that work? Yeah. It sucks. It blows. Like there's really no other way to put it because it's just like nobody's fault other than just bad luck.
Right.
Barnsley being terrible front office folks. And I hope they lose every game for the rest of their life for it's great that like it's crazy. Like it's just because it's specifically that one season we had a great team, we were playing well. We closed out Neil Collins' career with a 3-0 win at home against San Diego, I think. Like we were on fire. We finished Neil Collins' tenure with a 3-0 win at home, and then from that point on, it just snapped because turmoil, new coach, temporary coaches and whatnot. So it specifically that season feels like wasted it for no reason now, And then last season and going into it feels like even more unnecessary turmoil, but it is what it is. Neil Collins, best of luck. Hope everything goes well in Sacramento, but they don't win a title against us or something like that, So it is what it is. James, there's a couple other things to talk about we can mention really quick.
A couple of things that are at least a little nicer nicer to taste than that.
Yeah, we could talk about this more for a while, I'm sure. I mean, we probably will at some point mention it again. But 2025 deserves more exciting stuff than harping on kind of how upset we are by this. But more fun than that. Tate Johnson, drafted by Vancouver in Major League Soccer. Kind of silly, but he's in MLS. Tate Johnson is launching his professional career under a full-time contract and not under an academy contract for us.
Right.
Tate Johnson was so fun to watch for the Rowdies. Really the best player we've had under an academy contract is my take on that still. He's just awesome player. He'll do well over there. I hope that launches him into a rapid career path growth out of Vancouver. But Vancouver,
yes, exactly.
It seems like a fine enough place to start. Good for him. Good for the kid. Hope everything goes well for him. James, thoughts?
I every time that I end up watching some player in college soccer and they get drafted by specific clubs, I always cringe a little bit just because it doesn't seem like it's the best place to work out, and one of those is definitely Vancouver. But I think that Tate Johnson has it in him because he is obviously a very good player in his own right. But I don't know a ton of him. Like I haven't spoken to him directly, I don't believe, for any of our post-game press conferences. But from everything that I can see from an outsider's perspective, he obviously seems very driven. You need to be to make it to most of these levels anyway. So I hope that this continues to work out for him. And just like you said, he continues his upward trajectory, and maybe that trajectory will take him right the hell out of Vancouver. Maybe somewhere a little closer to home, even. Who can say? But we naturally wish him all the best, just like we do Santi Castaneda, anybody else that was playing for the Rowdies as an academy kid, or in any position. But good for him, and we hope to see him as the starting left back come whenever MLS starts up again.
Yeah.
The last thing that we have here before we move to our extra time segment is NISA. The National Independent Soccer Association is effectively dead. The league is no longer sanctioned. So it's by the U.S. Soccer Federation is what I mean by that. We don't know what that means. I was looking through the headlines just in preparation for this. Flower
Yeah.
City Union, which I believe is from Rochester,
Yeah.
they have left NISA. This was reported. Actually, that was longer. Ago. But either way, there are just a bunch of things here and there about how this team has, or this league has, effectively gone under. And my advice for any team within NISA that has fans, all of your fans should tell them to join the USL. It is a more stable structure, and maybe you will actually get to play a regular season at some point in the near future, not 2025, because our schedule is already set in stone. So I do wish all of those teams and their fans the best. Losing teams, individual groups like that sucks for American soccer. That is not good for American soccer. And that's why NISA going away is probably beneficial, because it was obviously not set up to work. It was not viable, is what I'm trying to say. So it really does suck for the fans in, let's say, Savannah, Georgia. They don't have any local team to go and support. I think possibly even college. I don't know about that, but hopefully there will be a landing spot somewhere for Savannah Clovers, for Irvine Zeta, for whoever the hell else, maybe even Flower City Union. They should all think about USL in the future, though. That is my recommendation. Carlos, do you have any thoughts on NISA?
Super weird that it lasted as long as it did.
That's the biggest takeaway, honestly.
I like, none of these teams like get fans at their games. Like,
no,
really, like, I didn't even know Arizona Monsoon FC was a real team. Like, I thought Club de Leon was one of like the USA SA, one of like the amateur soccer association teams. I didn't know this was a NISA team. I'm literally looking at the NISA like club list right now. The only team in here that I like have vaguely heard of that maybe has some fans go to their games, James, is Savannah Clovers FC. I don't know any of these other teams. And I don't think I'm particularly, maybe I'm generalizing, maybe some of these have like a few like really diehard fans, but I don't think there's gonna be many people missing them.
That's the other thing. That's true.
I just don't see like it was always kind of, I'm surprised it lasted as long as it did. That's really all I'll say. Like, I'm not saying like I'm happy that people's teams are going away. I just don't think that there are people that like kept up with NISA as like because like their team was really in it, you know, like lower league sickos keep up with it because it's a lower league sicko league. Like, NISA is like the definition of sicko lower league US soccer. If there are any viable teams, any teams that have a base, I'm sure they will make the move to USL. Like, it's really the only logical landing spot for a team. So if a team is viable, they'll make the move. So I think any team that would have survived independent of NISA is going to make the move. So good luck for them, to them. Or there's that new league that Eureka just mentioned as well in our chat, the League for Clubs. I don't know what the hell that is, to be honest. Like, they've been popping up on my timeline recently. I thought that was that scam artist, Matchmaker Smith, or what's that guy's name? There's a guy who's like starting a league, right? Who said he was starting a league that's like for the fans or whatever. It was like Scott Matchmaker something. You know what I'm talking about, James?
Oh, we talked about this a while ago, and I don't remember enough of it now. But yes, I have vague memories.
Anyway, if you're a soccer sicko and you understand what I mean, it's like you'd recognize the name Scott Matchmaker Michaels. It's like, or Scott. I think it's Scott Matchmaker Michaels was his name. And he said he was starting up this league and it's for the fans or whatever, and it's all seeming like a pyramid scheme of sorts. I thought this was his league, the league for clubs. Like I thought that's what was going on here. But apparently it's not. Apparently Scott Matchmaker Michaels is still working on his Utopia soccer league or whatever. I don't know what's going on over there. Every so often I'm reminded of why keeping up with lower league soccer in the US is as fun as it is. And it's because of dumb stuff like this, because of NISA, because of the league for clubs, and because of Scott Matchmaker, whatever his name is. USL is not perfect, but damn it, James, it's a little stable. And then it's not perfect. It's not perfectly stable either, but my team's all right in the USL, and that's all I'm asking for right now. So thank you to USL for that.
I think that's a lovely little touch there. Yeah. And now with that, we move on to our last thing in the extra time segment. We will have a Hot Wings challenge for our producer, Eureka Wheeler, coming up. We do not have a date. We're just putting it out there right now as part of the predictions challenge that we had last year, which Carlos won on a tiebreaker and Eureka lost without a tiebreaker. He will be doing the Hot Wings challenge, and we are just building a little bit of hype for that right now. Yeah. Keep your eyes peeled to us on our social medias so that you can find out when that is, which is a perfect transition for me to say thank you, listeners, for tuning in. And please follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, anywhere you are. Blue Sky, I'm forgetting, maybe LinkedIn even, I don't know, but we are at RBLR Sports. I am mostly on Twitter if you would like to interact with me. I am at RBLR James K. You can use the hashtag AskRBLR, or Carlos, where could they reach you?
At Carlos TPA10 on Twitter. Yeah, that's what's going on. I'm still on Twitter. I haven't made the move to Blue Sky. I know some people are over there right now too. I might make an account at some point. I feel like I'm so locked into my screenager, like open Twitter, scroll, and close Twitter. I feel like it's so easy. Yeah, that's what's still going on for me. Carlos CPA on Twitter. Come give us a follow. Always use hashtag AskRBLR for anything you want us to talk about. If you were listening to this on Twitter, always fun to have your comments come in live. Thanks for joining us live if you are. Thanks for listening on wherever you're listening if you're not.
And please like and subscribe to our podcast. You can get the full experience on YouTube. If you just want to listen to us, no problem. We are also on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you again next week.
Come on, you rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.